everybody, and welcome to the Professor's Podcast. I'm here hosting the show solo. I'm Don Frazier. My assistant co-host, temporary co-host, is Jonathan Samudio to my left, and we're joined in the studio today by Rob Frazier, an expert on cybersecurity. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks.
And so today we wanted to pick your brain about something that is mysterious to me as a mere history professor, but of some interest to John, I believe, and that's cryptocurrency.
All right.
What is it?
So cryptocurrency is built around a technology called blockchain. And blockchain has existed mathematically. They've known about it since the 60s. They started doing some experimentation in the 70s, but it wasn't until around 2008 when they decided to try to create something like a cryptocurrency.
So, but you said blockchain. I'm not even sure any idea what blockchain is?
Somewhat. I have a general idea. You know, it's sort of it's a way. The way that they use it, at least for cryptocurrency, is the only way that I know about it, and that's using it as like a ledger for all the transactions among.
Here, I'll
why don't we
go ahead.
We'll let the expert tell us.
I'll let you know. I'll give you an explanation. So, you start out with it's built around public key, private key encryption. So you take a Genesis block that you create your blockchain from, and then you take
Genesis block being the first block,
being the very first block that has all the original private key cryptography in it,
all that code,
and then you build another block. And when you take that block, you do a hash of the second block. You take half that hash and then half the hash from the first block. You encrypt that, and then your second block is there.
So all this is computer code.
All this is
this is
code.
Baby steps for me, man, because I've got no idea.
Yeah.
You just said hash, and I'm thinking, maybe some ham and potatoes.
No.
Eggs on top of that.
It's a mathematical representation of the value of what's in the block. And then the next one does the third block. We'll take a hash of the second block and a hash of the third block, combine those, and then that becomes its new cryptologic key.
Okay.
And so once you do all this, you start having this blockchain can build on out, and then you can build different nodes where everyone can go out and look at these blocks. And so if I've got a Bitcoin or something and I want to spend some value in it, then what I do is decide, all right, I'm going to give him so much of my Bitcoin value. And it goes out to all the other Bitcoins, and it says, all right, I'm going to update this ledger saying that I have spent, so much of this Bitcoin to give this guy. So imagine if you had a $100 bill.
Okay.
And so every time you went to spend that $100 bill, all the other people who had currency would get a notification of it. And they'd say, all right, Rob has spent $2 of his $100 bill, to buy a soda at the machine.
Yeah.
And so everybody updates their records about my $100 bill and says, all right, Rob only has $98 now. And then he gives me $5. So I take the $5. His $100 bill is now $95. Mine is now, $103. And everybody updates my coin. My $100 bill is now worth $105. His $100 bill is only worth $95. And
that's because this isn't based on anything. I mean, there's nothing backing this currency in the traditional sense.
No. Well, actually, there is.
Really?
So
Okay.
people take real money, and then they turn it into crypto money.
Okay, so then really crypto money is at the third level, because crypto money is backed by real money, which is backed theoretically by something that's in reserve at a bank or something else.
But it doesn't necessarily have to work that way, because if you have a cryptocurrency that is generally accepted by everyone, then you could do something like, well, I'm going to mow my lawn, so you just update my cryptocurrency with the value of my lawn service. And if you do that, then you've completely bypassed government entities, banks.
It's almost like Venmo in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Well, yeah, something like that.
You know what Venmo is?
Yeah.
That's where it's an online payment, like PayPal or something like that.
Okay.
But it's in the case of Bitcoin, it's an open type blockchain, which means it's permissionless. It means anyone can join. You can download the software, you set it up, and then you're in. And so you have your cryptographic hash that belongs to your wallet, and then you update your wallet with your transactions.
Okay.
And, people have talked about, well, is it safe? People have lost money with their Bitcoins and stuff. Well, they lose their money in kind of the traditional way. You have your wallet. It's on your computer. You click on the dancing kitten that downloads, malware from Eastern Europe, and it looks for your Bitcoin wallet, and it takes it.
So you're cyber pickpocketing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so, it's not that the technology of cryptocurrencies is flawed, but it's how the work goes together, how you actually operate. So to kind of add a little bit of a layer on top of that, there's a company called Coinbase.
Okay.
Where you can actually go in and set up an account that then hosts all your wallets. So they're adding the security into the hosting the wallets. Right now, Coinbase does Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum.
How many cryptocurrencies are there?
Oh, they're legion. In fact, if you go if you go to GitHub, you can download the software and create your own crypto coin.
But how do I set the value of it?
Well, the value is what your colleagues and the people that think that you've got something to go on here. They're actually the ones that set the value. In fact, there's been some spectacular fraud cases where when Bitcoin was surging ahead and was the new tulips,
the tulip bubble,
the tulip bubble. And people would set up their coins and have their initial coin offering, and everybody thought, well, good, it's only $1 a coin. I'll buy 1,000 of them. The only problem is that no one else wanted those coins, so your $1,000 coins couldn't be spent anywhere.
You just bought wooden nickels.
And then the persons who set it up, were $1,000 richer because they took the hard currency, and gave you the
imaginary currency.
Cryptocurrency that it's like having Zimbabwe dollars or Venezuelan pesos.
Yeah.
Where are you going to spend them?
Well, that's the nature of currency since time immemorial. It's all about faith and trust,
right?
Because it doesn't have particularly intrinsic value. A gold disc is not particularly useful in and of itself. It's what it represents. Unless
you're at Antietam.
Yeah, and it turns a bullet, and then later on you drown in the Hunley. Yes, I understand that reference, but
that's the thing about cryptocurrency, though, is that they do have inherent trust because you can go back and trace every transaction. So I have this $100 bill. It's grown. I bought a house with it, bought a car, sent kids to college, was getting paid my salary, all that. This cryptocurrency will have a record of all those transactions that can be proven mathematically and cryptographically.
But that's only if you're paying all those bills with Bitcoin.
Exactly.
With a cryptocurrency.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's like an automatic ledger in your checkbook. But, it's not like I can go in there and erase something and say, no, honey, I only spent $20 here, not $200.
Yeah.
I don't know how that extra zero got
I don't
there.
know where Pearl's dewdrop in came into.
With this, she'd be able to go back and say, well, let's put this into the miners and let it resolve cryptographically, and we'll see if that was 200 or 20. And if it was 200 and you put in 20, it'll come back and say, nope, this isn't in the ledger. It doesn't resolve cryptographically, so it doesn't belong. It's a false entry.
Do you have any friends that are trafficking in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies? Are you?
No, I'm not, mostly because a lot of my friends are more into actual stock market, and they just believe that cryptocurrencies are a little too volatile and speculative.
Well, like any good technology, the first adopters were the on the shady side. Mm. So when the internet became public and started doing commercial, it was a long time before all the Amazons of the world showed up, but the porn guys got there very early.
Yeah, well, absolutely. What
And so
Silk Road, wasn't that?
Yeah, so on Silk Road, they realized that a cryptocurrency where you just had a mathematical hash is your identity. It's hard to remember. Don Frazier is easy to remember. A social security number is the easy way to do it. But, a 256 character road number written in
numbers,
letters, and all that.
Emojis, little Japanese flags, dancing girls.
It's a little harder to remember. And so these wallets became, a source of anonymity. That's something you give up if you use Coinbase. But if you're in the Silk Road and you want to, buy automatic weapons that are banned in your country, it's a great way to do it without anyone knowing who you really are.
My hashtag bottom. Okay, we're going to take a break, come back, and continue to unpack this mystery. We'll be right back.
Don't skip! Don't skip! Don't skip! Hello, my name is Christopher Bartlett. I'm the studio manager with the McWhinney History Education Group, and you may be used to seeing my name in the end credits, or sometimes you'll see me sitting here as a special guest host. But right now, I'm here to talk to you about an amazing new opportunity. We have created a Patreon. To put it simply, if you enjoy the content on this YouTube channel, then you can head on over to Patreon, donate money to us, and become a patron. And through your donations, more content will be made. Basically, it breaks down like this. With $10, you will receive a short thank you video from Dr. Frazier and Dr. Fabrizio. With $25, you will be able to take part in a patron-only poll. With $50, you will get swag. These items include a choice between 2 prints of paintings and signed copies of Dr. Frazier's books, Blood on the Bayou and Thunder Across the Swamp. With $75, you will receive exclusive videos that will not be available anywhere else, not on YouTube and not on SoundCloud. These videos will be just for you, the patrons. With $100, your name will appear in the credits. See that right there? That's where your name can be. Finally, for $500, we will send you a signed collector's edition of Phil Collins' book, The Alamo and Beyond. Yes, it is signed by Phil Collins himself. And remember, for all the higher donations you do, you also get the stuff from the lower ones as well. So it's pretty cool. And when we reach our goal of $5,000, Dr. Frazier and Dr. Fabrizio will give you their own personal ranking of the presidents from worst to best. Coming from the perspective of a historian like Dr. Frazier and a political science expert like Dr. Fabrizio, you really don't want to miss their ranking and why they put them in that order. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, if you believe in our mission of making history accessible to everyone, then head on over to our Patreon and donate as much money as you're willing to give. You'll help us continue what we're doing, and you'll get amazing gifts as our way of saying thank you. Now we return to your regularly scheduled programming.
And we're back. This is the Professors, and I'm here, Don Frazier, with John Samudio and Rob Frazier. Now, John, during the break, you had an interesting observation about Bitcoin mining, which, again, is something mysterious to me.
Okay, yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but mining is the process through which they're resolving all of the hashes, right?
That is correct to a point.
Like through the transactions.
So you have to verify the transactions, but you do that by going out to all the other nodes that have a record of all the transactions.
So where do these nodes live?
They live on your computer in a little app.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons why when you have all this information in these Bitcoins and all these nodes, the Bitcoins have grown to be pretty large in size. So it takes longer and longer and longer to resolve the transactions. That's one reason why you don't see people like Starbucks taking Bitcoin, because it takes about 8 to 10 minutes to resolve it. So you go up there and you swipe your Bitcoin card and you're sitting with your latte and everybody's behind you, you're like, well, wait a minute.
Listening to the music.
Right. So it doesn't really work that way in like a retail transaction. There was a lot of companies who were starting to take Bitcoin until Bitcoin became so speculative, so that you could, I took your Bitcoin today and it's now worth, half again of what it was yesterday. Woohoo for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I took your Bitcoin tomorrow and it's now worth a third of what it was. That's bad for me.
Well, what's causing that fluctuation?
Speculation.
Yeah.
How many people are going to buy tulips?
Okay, so it's just a good old-fashioned bubble.
Right, a good old-fashioned bubble. But mining is a little bit different in that when they set up the Genesis block, and because of the length of the cipher and everything, you can have X number of unique coins. And so mining is where you're going in doing a brute force encryption to try to find the next coin that can be added for circulation.
Yeah.
So it'll be, nope, 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 yes.
Exactly. Only nope, 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 yes, with thousands of people with special ASICs, which are computer chips designed that are optimized for cryptography.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these ASICs do 3.5 trillion transactions a second, and they're grinding along, trying to guess this with all the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions. It's huge. Trillions
It's in China.
of no's before they get to the yes. And then once you get to the yes, then you're rewarded with a certain amount of Bitcoin out of that one. And then it goes out there to become the next one that's going to be issued.
And what's it backed by?
It's backed by people who will then buy into it for whatever reason. They'll give you, real money, and you give them Bitcoin. So
You've got buddies that are doing this?
I did it.
Really?
At one point. Yeah, because in the earlier days of like cryptocurrencies, you could mine with just a regular GPU.
Yeah.
So any graphics card, well, not any graphics card. It used to be just AMD ones were better because NVIDIA didn't have the architecture to support it well enough.
Yeah.
But it was a point where, a bunch of people who just had like nice desktop computers would.
And a lot of time on their hands?
You don't even need time. You just let it run.
Really?
So they would just do calculations. So, okay, how much am I spending for power to power this computer? How much did I spend on the GPU? And how much am I going to get in return over a period of time? And eventually you can just get your money back based on the value of the crypto.
And so did you actually make money doing this?
Oh yeah, I made about $5.
$5.
But there are people who set up rigs, and you can download the software. It'll give you the whole breakout. Like if you have this many ASIC machines and they're drawing this much power, and this is your power rate, and this is how many transactions you can crank out. This is their break-in point in so many months.
Wow.
And but it takes a big drain on your electricity. So they have estimated that worldwide that people trying to mine just Bitcoin equals to all the energy consumption of Denmark.
Good golly. So that's just Bitcoin. That's not the other cryptocurrencies.
That's not the other one. So the other, the other secret to this in cryptocurrencies is finding ways to resolve them more quickly, and to be able to establish, how many coins are going to be there. And so there's a lot of them like Ethereum and some of the other ones. So 70% of all the mining capacities in China right now because they have subsidized power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
big banks of computers.
And they have big banks of computers. So what most people do is they set up their 4 ASICs in their basement that are burning up the equivalent to the rest of their house in electricity.
Yeah.
And they're looking at a return breaking even in about 4 to 5 months, and they're cranking that out. But those 4 are not going to discover Bitcoin. The chances are somebody else is going to get it before them, and they'll have to start over. So what they do is you join these big consortiums like in China, and so when this gigantic Chinese consortium discovers a Bitcoin, instead of getting if you had discovered it yourself, you would get quite a bit of value. You get a little sliver back, because you lent your computing power to it.
Oh wow! It's almost like being a partial royalty owner in the oil business.
Yeah, well, it just gets,
I want to
it's-
buy 1/16 of 100% of this well.
Right.
So what all went into you being a Bitcoin miner? I mean, what was those steps in 2 minutes?
Well, first I went and I set up a wallet on Coinbase.
So you first of all you started with a computer.
Yeah, it's all just set up on the computer. So I was like, I have this computer that I built like, it must be 5 or 6 years ago now.
Okay.
And at the time, my graphics card wasn't great, but it was okay. And I was like, well, if I'm just gonna leave my computer on, might as well do something productive. So I just made a wallet. Then
And you got the wallet by doing what?
you just set up an account
With that company.
with
Yeah.
Coinbase.
Coinbase.
Okay.
And then I went on to, I forget what software it was because it was a number of years ago now, but
Yeah.
you just download a software and you can configure like how you want it to compute. So you could use your CPU if you wanted to, but it's not effective. So you just say, okay, I want to use my graphics card, a couple of other settings, like follow a guide. It's just on the internet.
Yeah.
And you just hit start and leave it running.
Well, so how do you know if you win?
Well, you check Coinbase, and then if your wallet gets updated, then
Bam,
Yeah.
you got a Bitcoin.
Or a sliver of a Bitcoin.
Or a sliver of a Bitcoin.
it's never a whole one.
Right.
It's like point
It's
zero
1.5
zero
cents
zero.
of another $100 bill.
Okay.
And if you think of the coins as the $100 bill, think of it as they're all $100 bills, but they have different pictures on them because
Okay.
they're all unique.
Okay, they're all unique. And that's what blockchain does.
Right. That's what the Bitcoin does.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate that the public's exposure to blockchain has come through coins, through Bitcoin and places like that, because blockchain is actually immensely more value in a bunch of other different applications. And with Bitcoin, it's permissionless; anyone can join, but you can have permissioned blockchains where you can control the flow of information, and what you're doing is you're establishing trust between untrusted parties.
Okay.
And we'll, we can just go into
Yeah,
that a
we
little
need to
deeper.
unpack that on the next segment. All right, so I'm still trying to figure out how your cent and a half of a $100 bill came into being, because I'm having a hard time not seeing a penny and a half. But all right, we can answer that those questions after this break. We'll be right back.
Bear Leader Tours. Where will Bear Leader Tours take you? Everywhere. Paris, Bruges, Trier, battlefields, Pearl Harbor, Pacific beaches, New Orleans. Join the adventure. www.mcwhinney.org.
When you support McWhinney History Education Group, you also support the many young workers who operate and maintain the company's digital operations. These are dedicated university students who handle many things such as filming, recording, and editing content for McWhinney, as well as cultivate the layout and structure of McWhinney's various websites, including its associated channel on YouTube. We are a nonprofit organization that exists from donations from interested persons and history enthusiasts alike. Donations enable our students to obtain a higher education, job training, and career bolstering skills. If you would like to donate, please visit us at www.mcwhinney.org and click on our About Us tab to learn more.
This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com.
Hi, I'm Don Frazier, and this is the Professor's Podcast. I'm here with John Samudio and Rob Frazier, and we are discussing the mysterious and ephemeral world of cryptocurrency and other related topics. So I've got my mind blown that you mined a Bitcoin, came back with a sliver of a Bitcoin that was worth, you estimated about $5, but it wasn't based on anything. So you never put any money in?
I didn't put any money in. I think the way that it worked was the app. I say app, but this.
Did you buy the software?
No.
Okay, so software was free.
Software was free. Coinbase signing up was free. So the only thing is I believe that I was putting my processing power. If I remember correctly, there was a string of letters and numbers that you put in. You were mining towards your wallet on Coinbase.
Okay.
So that they could then immediately take a cut of whatever you had been earning.
So it's commission based.
Yes.
All right. So it's just like buying stocks and bonds in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's more like he joined a group of people who mow lawns.
Okay.
And he went out and mowed half of a lawn.
Yeah.
And so when all the lawns in the whole neighborhood, all 400 lawns were mowed, and the lawn mowing consortium got paid, they saw that he mowed half a lawn. They gave him that little bit for that half a lawn.
Minus a commission for being part of the group.
Yeah, minus a commission for part of the group.
Now, you mentioned something about overhead.
Yeah, so there's a lot of overhead. So going back to the lawn, you got to pay for the gas, got to pay for the lawnmowers, and all that.
Gatorade.
In the
Gatorade.
blockchain world, that becomes an ASIC machine. Which
is that a brand?
ASIC? No, ASIC is a type of machine. It's a CPU that's optimized for breaking cryptography. Because he was talking about using his video card.
Yeah.
Video cards have little processors called CUDAs on them.
Okay.
And all they do is do the vectoring of the graphics.
So you can play World of Warcraft.
Right, exactly. Any of those games So what happens is that people found out you could use all these CUDAs to do other things than just graphics.
Okay.
And it's like having a little bitty, extra CPU in there.
An auxiliary CPU.
That does nothing but specialized type transactions.
Okay.
So now they've just cut to the chase and said, let's just build them that do nothing but cryptography, and we'll build them for things like Bitcoin mining.
Okay, that makes sense.
But they chew
that's
up a lot.
expensive.
They're expensive. Yeah. They're about to get one that does 1.5 trillion transactions a second is about $3,500, $3,600.
That's a lot of Bitcoin.
And you've got to have lots of them if you want to get in, really seriously in there.
Okay.
And you have to have a place where you can store them and keep them cool, and that.
I bet they run pretty hot.
And they run very hot, and then they chew up a lot of electricity so that you could end up spending more mining Bitcoin than you do to heat and cool the rest of your house.
And it would be tough to recover that investment, I suspect.
Well, they've got software you can download that says, takes a bunch of different parameters, how many trillions of seconds you do, how big is your power supply, what's your utility rate, with that many ASICs.
It throws in a formula.
It throws in a formula and says in 4 months you will have enough Bitcoin to cover your electric bill, and then a few more months you'll have enough to cover the cost of your hardware and all that.
Wow. That makes my head hurt. All right, so that's all about cryptocurrency. And I mean, Christopher Bartlett, our studio manager, showed us how cryptocurrencies are stacking up, or Bitcoin in particular is stacked up against real dollars in terms of exchange rate, and it has plummeted.
Yeah, it was up around $19,000 a Bitcoin. I think the latest it's around $3,000 or $4,000 now.
Okay.
But the problem is that, like the tulips, it was going up and everybody got in. People went and got second mortgages on their house. They got maxed out their credit cards buying. In fact, Coinbase had finally said, we'll no longer take credit cards for
oh, wow, because the credit cards weren't any good.
Well, because they knew that people were about to ruin themselves in such a speculative type endeavor.
Holy smoke, they were buying on margin.
Right. So There was a lot of people that became cryptocurrency billionaires because they got in early, and then watched that value be halved overnight, or basically it's a matter of months.
It's like being a honky tonk 10 at midnight.
Well, and the other thing is, if you have $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, it's only good if you can exchange it into something that you can spend elsewhere.
That people have faith in.
Because Starbucks is not going to take your Bitcoin. Opium dealers in Afghanistan might, but
that's awesome.
But that kind of limits the utility for you.
Anybody mining it over in the dorms? Do you know? I've heard it's a problem.
Really?
Yeah. That it's actually taking a lot of computing capacity and bandwidth.
I haven't heard anything about it.
It's probably more of the electricity.
Yeah.
It's like the way they trap drug dealers growing marijuana in their basement, because you have to have high energy halogen lights.
So just look at the meter spinning.
So you can look at everybody in the neighborhood, and this one house is using 3 times as all their neighbors. It's kind of like, okay, let's drive by there and see if it's really lit up in bright lights at 2 a.m.
So cryptocurrency to me still seems way too volatile. But you're saying the real magic is blockchain.
The real magic is blockchain, because blockchain establishes trust between untrusted parties.
Okay.
So think about when you go to buy a house.
Yeah.
And, the closing on a house takes about a month, because you got to do title searches, and you got to do bank transactions, and all these other things that you got to do.
And you don't know the buyers oftentimes from Adam's off ox.
Well, and you also don't know, the authenticity of all the deeds.
Absolutely.
That went before. It's all got to be researched, everything like that.
The surveys.
Yeah. You got to make sure the survey's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that no one's changed it, no one's erased that zero. So, you only have a 20-foot lot, not a 200-foot lot.
That was always a challenge in Buffalo Gap. There wasn't anything out there that was on a square.
Yeah. So, by entering these things into blockchain, so you go and say, all right, I'm going to buy this house, and I've got all the data from the time that it was first surveyed and entered into a county book, and then it was broken up into smaller farms, and then it was sold for a housing development, and then these houses were built, and my house was built, and here's the survey, and then Joe Smith bought it, and then Jones bought it, and then Brown bought it, and now I bought it. Well, if you have to go back and do all that research, it costs.
Yeah, because you're paying somebody to do all that.
And then when I sell
energy.
it, somebody else is going to go do all that same research.
Which is fairly redundant.
It's very redundant. So if you put it into blockchain, then the first record's in the blockchain, and it's got a cryptographic signature saying this is genuine. It's more than just like a stamp of a notary. It's mathematical. It can be proven.
Is that similar to a certificate of trust?
Well, it is like computer certificates, but certificates expire. Blockchains don't expire.
Okay.
The math is always there.
And at this point in time, this was absolutely verified, and you can trust it.
So this was trusted when they surveyed it, when it was raw land being settled by people in covered wagons, and when it becomes a farm, that gets certified, and it's built on that blockchain.
This is just history.
And so then it becomes the blockchain for when they sold it to the farm to the developer. And then the next block is when they started building houses on it. And each house becomes a block in the blockchain. So when I go to buy it, I buy a house from you, and they do the title search, all they have to do is go in there and say, all the math checks out.
I'm going to enter this string of numbers, and it automatically comes back.
And it comes up and says, yep, this is all genuine, all the way back to the first person who surveyed it, or not.
Or not.
And so this is really important for land titles in countries that don't always play by the rules.
Or don't have a county clerk.
Or there's been a revolution, and you go back and say, all right, who owned this in 1918 when the Bolsheviks expropriated it? And, 80 people in the village says, I own it.
Why, that was my farm.
So
yeah, that's the ticket.
So, say in, 150 years when we overthrow our robot master lords will go back and say, who owned this house? And the blockchain will say, well, that was Don's house back then.
Way back in the day.
Right. So, his children inherited and this, that, and the other, and then the cyborg children had it, and then now the natural children.
What about the sponge people that came in?
Right. But you have that level of trust that you can use forever.
Okay. And so, is there a career opportunity here for historians? Because this sounds like what you're talking about is history.
Actually, this is the sort of thing that they need to be doing for like email, so that you can say, "Oh, did someone send this email out that said so and so was this?" Or use this term or something derogatory. Because I'm running for office and I want to smear this person. If they have a blockchain, no, I don't believe it is. What you've done is completely falsified it.
Yeah, because I remember you used to send emails with my name on it just to prove you could do it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
just by spoofing it. So it's against the spoofing. Now, going back to the mortgage example, they had some problems with people were transferring funds. So people in Eastern Europe would go in and say, oh, this person's going to fund their mortgage through this bank. Here's the routing number for the bank. I'm going to spoof that and take that money.
We're going to talk about that when we come back. Thanks.
Welcome to State House Press, a nonprofit publisher of quality books. State House Press and the McWhinney Foundation Press are part of the Texas A&M University Press Consortium, which handles retail distribution for several small but distinguished publishers. Our entire list of offerings, with pictures, summaries, prices, and easy online ordering, is available in our section of the consortium website. State House Press is proud of its reputation for high standards of scholarship and readability. In addition to this, we at State House Press have recruited the talents of individuals such as Phil Collins on his book, The Alamo and Beyond. We release not only texana by contemporary authors, but reprints of classic accounts of Texas life and history otherwise inaccessible to the public. Our book list also incorporates the publications of the McWhinney Foundation Press, specializing in the history of the Old South and the Civil War. We strive with our titles to make history accessible to as many readers as possible. To accomplish this task, we have recruited some of America's leading historians, as well as bright new scholars. We believe firmly in narrative history, in telling a good story, and in telling it well, without losing sight of the people who've made history and the events that changed a nation.
For questions or business inquiries, please visit the Texas Book Consortium at www.tamupress.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com.
Hello, I'm Don Frazier, and this is
John Samudio?
Yes, it is John Samudio and Rob Frazier. He's actually back on the campus of McMurray University after being away for 20 years or so. You used to be the information guy here. I remember the day that telephones came to campus, and you said, now you answer it by saying ahoy, ahoy. Not really. But you were talking about real-world examples, in this case a transaction in Eastern Europe. But, I'm just curious about other applications for blockchain.
Yeah?
Well,
is that towards me?
Well, to follow the funding example for mortgages.
Yeah.
So you get your mortgage. The bank says, all right, I'm going to fund the mortgage to the mortgage company. They have you wire that money to a wiring address.
Sure. And you also have a real estate agent that's handling the transaction
Right.
that both parties mutually trust.
Right. And so what happens is that interlopers would come in and say, all right, well, I'm going to spoof that mortgage company wire address so that when you wire it, it comes to me instead of to you. So, and this was, you can go out and find the news stories about this. This was becoming a really bad problem with fraud. So what they did
in the U.S. or abroad?
In the U.S. and other places.
Okay.
So what they did is, all right, here are the wiring addresses attached into a blockchain.
Okay.
So if you go in and say, no, I'm the wiring address, then they say, well, show me your blockchain hash.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, yeah, I don't have one, And so then it says, that's right. So we'll see you, So it doesn't get wired there. It goes to the other address that are identical, but this one's got the blockchain. So it's got that trust, that imprimatur.
Okay.
So being able to establish trust between untrusted parties, such as I don't know who surveyed this land from the back of their covered wagon.
Yeah.
Never met them, don't know anything about them, but I know that somebody knew them and they trusted them, and it's in the blockchain. So I can trust the cryptography of the blockchain, and everything in between I can trust. So I think during the break we were talking about things like produce and fish, perishables. So what happens is that you catch a fish, you're up in, catching fish in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You bring it in, you throw it on the ice, and each fish gets labeled with a little RFID tag with a temperature sensor. So it tracks like, okay, the fish was in the water was, 42 degrees. We threw it in the ice, it went down to 33 degrees. It's on ice. That's the way you treat fish.
And that sensor's reading into a computer aboard ship.
It gets scanned into the ship, and that goes into the blockchain for the supply chain.
Okay.
It goes to the wholesaler. You give them the fish. They throw it on ice. The temperature sensor says, got to 34 degrees in handling. Now it's down to 32. It's got a nice little graph. It goes into the blockchain as the next person who handled the fish. They put it on a plane. They fly it to DFW. The handlers in DFW process the fish. They scan the thing. They look at the temperature. Fish has always been, between 35 and 33 degrees, which is fine for the fish. They load it in the truck, goes into the blockchain, goes to San Antonio to HEB's distribution center.
Yeah.
They unload the fish there. They put it on a truck. They send it to Abilene, and the HEB guys here, they unload it. They scan it in the blockchain. And they says, look, fish was caught 2 days ago. It's never been above 35 degrees. I can put it out there and tell my customers it's fresh, and I can prove that it's fresh.
Yeah, that's the big difference, because if it's shipped to Chewy's House of Sushi, may not be the case.
Yeah, or it's like, here, just pluck the eye out of it so no one will see how
and put a googly eye in there.
Exactly. So, and you're able to do that. So, well, this is important for things like materials that are in conflict zones, like blood diamonds. So De Beers is using blockchain to take a laser and etch a serial number on their diamonds.
Oh, wow.
And then they put that into a blockchain so that when you go to give your bride an engagement ring, it wasn't done with slave labor and,
It's a free-range, cage-free GMO diamond.
It's not a blood diamond. It wasn't used to finance, genocide and tribal warfare or
RPGs or
right.
anything. Yeah.
So, that gives that kind of confidence. So there's lots of applications within supply chain, counterfeit parts. If you want to go buy a part for your car, you want one that's genuine, that the provenance of where it came from.
Wasn't that Katrina?
It wasn't pulled out. It wasn't pulled out of a car that was under 12 feet of water.
Yeah.
And that's very important because people will do things like harvest electronics off of old computing gear.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a critical router, it's running the university and stuff like that. You want to make sure that all the components in that router
are fresh,
and that they're not one that was sat in a router for 5-6 years someplace, and then was pulled out, repainted in a recycling place in another country where the labor's cheap, and then sent to Cisco as new, and then it goes into the router, and then it's here, and it has a mean time between failure. And when it went in there, it was only like 10% left before it's designed to fail.
So if we wanted to, use blockchain to keep all of these things in track, will we have to first go back, or would it be more effective to just start making the serial numbers for things now and then uploading them to the blockchain for it? Or would you want to, go through all the old stuff and then mark that as well?
You can do both. And I have dealt with companies that will do things like take a topographic scan of a physical item, and then put turn that physical asset into a digital asset. Then that goes in the blockchain, so that when that component arrives at your place that you want to put into your
manufacturing process,
you'll look at it. And you take that scan, you'll do the same scan, and you have a certain range, plus or minus 1% that it matches, and you can say, okay, no one's altered it.
Yeah, I can trust that. So there might actually be a field for forensic blockchain people.
Well, there'll be a field. Well, the other thing is that you're generating lots of data.
Yeah.
So then you can go and start looking at it. So if you've got all these things in your supply chain, and how long it took the fish to get here versus the other guy who's doing fish and going, hey, it takes him 2 days longer to get here. So my shelf life has been cut by 2 days because his shipping isn't as efficient. And you can do the same thing with your manufacturers. Like, how long does it take them to get there? How many of their chips have defects? Because it's all in the blockchain. And you can go back and say, this was a defective chip. Here's the blockchain. Let's trace it all the way back to the source. And we can figure out, where the problem happened.
Yeah, that's true forensics.
Yeah, but it's easy forensics because you've got all the data.
But you could go back and capture historical data, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And create kind of time machine.
So that's from a historical standpoint, these documents should be being put into blockchain. So if somebody goes back and says, no, this guy said something else, or he meant something else, and you've got all his documents and all been verified from the original sources, and they're in a blockchain, no debate.
That's the last word. Class dismissed.